engineer, traveler, author, speaker, podcast host, and recently tried to go surfing in a hurricane. But will you please make me feel very welcome to Tony Gunn.
Thank you so much. I wrote that, by the way. All the good things, yeah. Roger wrote something for me, and I was like, well, let's just make some stuff up. Right. So we started doing that, and it sounded much better, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Welcome back to the Gunn Show, my friends. This is the VIP edition. You know, I oftentimes get asked what I'm going to talk about in these things, and we have an idea, right? The manufacturing movement. But oftentimes I run off script. I don't memorize these things. I really enjoy people. I really enjoy this industry. And for those of you who don't know me, I travel enough and spend a lot of time with, half the people in here. In fact, half of what I'm going to talk about today probably came from a lot of you guys' ideas out there, because I get to spend so much time with you. But the first thing I like to do when I give these keynotes and address people that may not know me is just kind of get a raise of hands of who does, so I know who I'm speaking to, who actually knows me before this moment. And I love when there's not a lot of hands that go up. It gives me an opportunity to share why we might want to pay attention today. So for those who do know me, I'm honored to know you as well. Thank you so much. And for those who don't, why not just sleep through this? Why am I here? Why do you even want to pay attention? You could text message all day. Hey, Brent, good to see you, buddy. But why not pay attention? So manufacturing movement, what gives me the right to talk about it? Well, I was a machinist for 12 years, worked in 3 major shops, from precious metals to your standard steels to woodworking. Was considered in the top 5% of understanding how to machine precious metals in the world at one time. Programmed line by line, coding, floppy disk. I know some folks in here remember the tape days. Not everyone, but I came in on the floppy side of things. That sounds bad, but I did come in on the floppy side of things, and then kind of moved my way through industries, learning as much as I could and spending time with mentors in this industry, the gray hairs, as I like to call them, who taught me so much, and I was so grateful. And I'm going to get into why those people are so important later when we talk about this manufacturing movement and how much tribal knowledge is out there that we're trying to absorb in a current obvious situation that we all talk about. But I went into the machine shop for a while. Once I did that, I went down to Florida a couple times. I was living in Washington, D.C., went down to Florida a couple times. I was like, I want to live here. But I didn't have a job or a place to live or anything like that. But I was like, I want to live here. So I picked up all my stuff. My wife was 6 months pregnant, and without a job, place to live, anything, we just drove to Florida. Ended up getting hired by 3 companies, and one of them ended up making me an international sales consultant, which took me around the world to about 40, 50 different countries, and my job there was to build distributorships and to understand how businesses are run and countries run in all of those places around the world, and everyone does business a little different. Your India is going to be different from your Japan, is different from your Mexico, is different from the other places, right? So that was a decade of spending time with some of the head engineers on this planet. And some of you guys out there have also had the great privilege to work with brilliant people. I mean, this industry is full of brilliant people, but brilliant people all around, right? So I have had the opportunity to feel quite dumb in some of the rooms with SpaceX and Apple and Google and Tesla and Oculus and Nike and Boeing and all of these folks. And you sit in a room like that and you think, man, damn, these people are smart. I mean, really, really smart. But I did get to do that. And then when COVID hit, I'm not a big fan of stress, worry, anxiety. I've just really been bad at accepting that as a part of my life. And it exists, don't get me wrong, you breathe through it. I'm a big fan of meditation. But when that happened and the world was very concerned, and I was too, I respectfully stepped away from the couple of jobs that I was working in international consulting, put all my stuff into storage, and went backpacking through Mexico for a few months. It's like, this looks like fun. A couple of hurricanes, bless you. A couple of hurricanes, by the way, and just tried to surf in those, as we just mentioned. And then the one that just hit Florida, I tried to fly from San Francisco and get in that one, but I was too late. So I'm a nut, as well as hopefully some source of information. But when I went backpacking through there, a company called MTDCNC called and said, hey, we know about your background in machining. We know about your background in international consulting, spending time in all of these countries, working with all these folks. Would you mind helping us spread the manufacturing gospel on this news channel, MTDCNC, which is, for those who don't know, the most popular news channel in the world for manufacturing. completely unbiased, agnostic point of view that tries to bring as many companies, testimonials, technologies onto the channel as possible so that you can learn, research, and thrive within your own businesses. So check that out if you haven't already. But they said, would you mind helping us with that? So I flew over to England, took on an interview, thought, man, I can be of service to an industry I love. I can really help everyone around the world. And so I became the director of global operations. And so now my current role is to fly around the world and learn from all of you amazing people. My job is to listen and ask questions. And I would say, and Megan's joined me quite a few times. Thank you, Megan. Good to see you. And I would say 60-70% of our job in this role is helping someone feel comfortable in front of a situation or as a part of a situation or with a red light on a camera where they are normally absolutely a no. Do not put me on camera. I do want to see the cameras, but how can we create an environment that allows these folks to thrive in a situation that is difficult and share those stories? I mean, almost every engineer I know is absolutely way smarter than me. I mean, brilliant, making everything around us all the time, besides air, besides humans. You look around this room, you look all around, it's something we all know, something we all say. I give keynotes outside of this industry as well, so I'll emphasize that a bit more in those keynotes. Hey, by the way, you know that thing you don't know how it got made? Yeah, we did that. But in this room, we know that everything's made by manufacturing. And how do we get these folks to share it? So I would say 60-70% of what we do is helping someone feel comfortable and confident. So I say those things because I myself don't love this stage, to be honest. Did you know that and where's Salim? Salim's got to be in here somewhere, but yes, there you are, Salim. Salim spent time with me in Austin, Texas, and this is something I said in Texas, given the keynote there as well, and it was the number one fear in the world, on average amongst most people, is the fear of public speaking and public nudity. Now, fortunately for you guys, the second half we're not going to do. The public nudity. But I was drinking tequila with Mike Watkins last night, and he said he'd come up here and get naked to take the spotlight off of me. So we don't have to worry about that. It's just going to be us talking with each other. But that is a thing, right? And this stage, the reason I do what I do constantly is for this industry. You know, Roger and I talk a lot about it being invisible. In fact, I think together on a podcast, we kind of coined it. And it's probably been said outside amongst peers time and time again, but we certainly made more noise with it in that podcast, right? The invisible industry. So if this industry is invisible, yet it's probably the most important thing in this country, the backbone of this country, a manufacturing movement, how do we make it fun, exciting, bringing it back? Some of that complication, in fact, somebody called me just yesterday, one of the Selway folks on the West Coast, and said, I need to get on your podcast because we need to talk about something. And it was talking about the generational gap of parents who saw really great jobs because manufacturing was the go-to thing, right? There was a time, back when I was a young man in the 1940s and 50s, there was a time where manufacturing was the job. I mean, you sought after. Everybody wanted. If you were, yeah, what do you do? Oh, doctor. That's amazing. What do you do? Oh, well, I'm a dentist. Well, thank you. My teeth have fallen out. Back in those days, you didn't want to have a toothache, but you did. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a manufacturing engineer. Thank you so much. And it disappeared. In fact, in my high school, I saw, because I failed almost everything, but I was great in FFA and agriculture. But I saw my machine shop be removed my freshman year, and a gym went in for the football team, which at that point in my life, I wanted the gym because I didn't know any better. And I was a soccer player and a football player and ran track and took karate and all that fun stuff. And so I wanted the gym. But later, I realized how important it was to keep that there. And most schools did not. I do get to spend a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier, traveling around. And the reinvestment, I would say, in some places is inspiring. I just did some interviews with Eric Lindbergh. If you guys recognize the name Charles Lindbergh, that might sound like a familiar name. The Spirit of St. Louis. It's a cool thing. So I got to spend time with Eric Lindbergh and the Lindbergh Foundation. And what they're doing in St. Louis right now at Lindbergh High School is something I would have dreamt of. Well, maybe not. I didn't like high school. But as an adult, I would have dreamt of for my children to have in their high school. Their STEM program, and I'll say STEAM as well to bring in the arts also, but their STEM program is doing really well. So that's kind of the beginning part of the manufacturing movement or lack thereof. Now, I can speak to this crowd here, and a lot of what I say, I was thinking to myself in bed last night, even this morning, I'm talking to a crowd that knows a lot of this. If I was to talk to you today about a labor shortage and a skills gap, everyone here would be like, I've heard this before. Yeah, we all know it. If I talk to you continuously about how we got to that point of having it all yanked out, and we need to convince the parents, because parents believe in university, even though there's a better ROI right now currently on going to trade school for the lifetime of a career than there is in the average university career. So there's a better ROI. Convincing them, right? But if I speak on only this, then what am I actually bringing to the table for the majority of you folks out here who have, we have some emerging leaders who might be grateful to hear some of that, but most of you guys are seasoned veterans, and I've spent so much time with so many of you that, again, your wisdom inspires me to want to do more, and if it's my responsibility, my duty, as I go back to not loving being on stage, it is an honor for me to have an opportunity to stand up here and do something that oftentimes brings me nerve-wracking moments and fearful moments, but our industry deserves it, you all deserve it, you're all amazing, and we need to make manufacturing fun and interesting and educational. We've done a really, really great job of being smart and making things. Don't get me wrong, I think Roger has said it many, many times before about this. We don't do a great job of selling ourselves. We're comfortable with who we are and what we do. We're confident people. There's even that joke that says, how can you tell an outgoing engineer versus a standard regular engineer? He says, because when you talk to them, they'll look at your feet instead of their own feet. That's how an engineer usually is, right? So we've always been very traditional, and I'm a big fan of traditional. We just have to play the percentage rule, right? Let's keep 50% traditional. Let's keep what we're good at, what we know. Let's keep the knowledge. But also, there takes real courage, I believe, in embracing the now, which we can call the future. But if any of you have been to Japan or Korea or Singapore or some of these places, our future is there now. And we're playing a little bit of catch up at the moment. And we can do it because I talked about this in Austin as well, because COVID made us. There was a whole lot of talk about we need to reshore, we want to reshore, we want to be the best in the world. Where I think the number recently that I saw was around 2.3 trillion, where China's about 4.1 or more trillion. So, and then what China does in the US, and then the next 5 to 10 countries in the world, China does the combination of that as far as the amount of manufacturing that's done. So we are playing a little catch up, but we're confident, we're proud people, we're Americans. We love our flag, we love our country, we pay attention to that. So we have to embrace, we have to accept, we have to be brave, and we have to say that some of these technologies that are moving as quick as the interweb. Every day I look up AI and I'm learning something new. The people who teach AI, learning something. If you're involved in AI every single day, you're still learning something new every single day. Now, how do we keep up when our job is to make stuff and then adapt AI and then adapt our paperless parts out there and our pro shops, our ERPs and our datanomics for machine monitoring? And we're going to get, I haven't even clicked a slide yet. I'm notorious for that. Salim could see, I missed like 10 slides. I talked for too much. And I didn't even get to the Q&A last time. But this is part of how we can grow quickly. And I know a lot of us will sit here that own machine shops, and numbers is a big deal because everything I purchase, I want to make money back. It has to be a give and take. There has to be a return. For me to buy and invest in something, it doesn't immediately give me a return. Then I have to balance it for what, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? But at the same time, I've been into so many machine shops with our machine monitoring friends out there. And what they've realized is Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, 5S, these concepts of organizing our floor or maximizing the potential inside of our existing machines. And I know my machine sales friends out there don't like when I say this, that we can raise the uptime of our spindles and do more within those machines without buying a new machine. And I did an interview not too long ago up in Wisconsin with our friends at Datanomics, and they were getting ready to buy a new machine. They brought in Datanomics and realized that they were only running at about 30% capacity, even though the tribal knowledge told them they were running at 80% and they needed to buy a new machine. This is the type of information that will allow us to thrive internally without having to spend more money, large amounts of money, but then they ended up buying that machine. For my machine sales friends out there, they ended up buying that second machine. They just needed to maximize the current one, right? And I heard a number not too long ago that was 40% is the average uptime. So what do we do to make that better? Well, I know Brent and Heimer have a lot of solutions for that. I know a lot of my friends here, I see all the booths out there, your Hyde and Hines and your Paperless, and I get to work with Dave and Mike on this really, really cool project, if you haven't heard of it, called Shop Rescue. And many of you have probably heard of Bar Rescue or Restaurant Impossible, where those things are suffering. Well, we've taken machine shops and flipped it on their head. In fact, the one we just finished filming that'll release in the next few months, and I don't know if I see Dave and Mike in here because they can correct me on this number. Please do. But something about a $3 million change within 6 months. Did I get that number correct, more or less? $3 million in profit within 6 months that you had changed in that facility by going in there and making the changes that we're going to talk about today. By understanding how management works, by understanding how automation works, by understanding how organizing processes work. Is that long-winded enough? Should I click the first slide? The manufacturing movement. You know, I lay in bed before I do these things. I'm like, an hour? What am I going to talk about for an hour? And then I'm 55 minutes into it. I'm like, I didn't get to anything yet. So at least you're chuckling a little bit. The manufacturing movement. All right, let's step into the heart of manufacturing renaissance. In fact, our friend Megan and I, and probably a lot of you guys, I know Roger as well, our friend Drew Crow has probably coined the manufacturing renaissance, right? I mean, he's supposed to be here right now, but he just did an amazing thing with the Navy and education. And if you don't know who Drew Crow is, please do look him up. He's a young man who went through some real difficult trials when he was young, and he goes around the country right now inspiring the youth to believe in themselves. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll all go out and help not just believe in ourselves, but help others believe in themselves as well. So I have a video rolling, and it's just kind of background stuff, but the manufacturing movement involves what? Well, we've gone from 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're adapting automation. There's still misconceptions about automation means that I must have high production. You know, that am I automotive? No, that's not true. With bar feeds and pallet change systems, you have the ability to do very high mix and low volume and automate through nights and weekends. We do stories about that all the time. There's technologies out there that are built into some systems that I know, like a Fanuc has, but then you have partners like your Karen Engineerings who can allow you to have adaptive resources when you walk away from a machine to help it speed up and slow down based on the level of cut or a tool wearing down. Vibration analysis is out there to make sure that our machines are being fine-tuned. How do we know about all this? Can we go to every trade show, every conference, how do we figure it out? Go to MTDCNC? We don't have it all either. I mean, how do we know, right? And it's conferences like this where you talk with your friends and you figure out what to do, right? It's videos, it's research. I am going to ask a question. I would love to see a raise of hands because I think I know the answer, but I kind of want to see if I'm right. Because going back to being traditional and doing more for ourselves, how many in here love social media marketing? Yeah, I didn't think I'd see anybody. You and me, Megan. And actually, I'm going to delete mine as soon as when I go to Bali and retire, I'm out of here. I'm deleting mine. I don't care how big it gets, I'm gone. But yeah, you saw Megan was pretty much the only hand. Whether we like it or not, that is how we reach other people. That is how we grow our businesses. That is how we inspire the next gen. I am now, well, in about a week, I'll be 46 years old. And I'm part of the generation that was in middle school and was afraid to pick up the phone and call my girlfriend, my 6th grade girlfriend. I was, hi, how you doing? Didn't do anything. But my 6th grade girlfriend, would you call their house like, please don't let the mom answer or dad answer, please. I was part of that generation, please, please, please. And you hang up or, whatever. But, can I talk to your daughter? And then we saw pagers, and then we saw these big freaking car phones, and then we saw a flip phone, and then we saw a smartphone, and it keeps growing. And so we have this is what I was talking to my buddy Vince Selway about last night. We have a generational situation that is unique to itself, probably for the first time, really. I mean, I know we've made cars. There was a transition of cars and from horse and buggy, but if we think about the timeline of written down information, unless you believe in Atlantis and Lemuria, which I kind of do, but they destroyed themselves from technology. This time frame is moving so quickly that what's happened is folks like myself and a little bit older than me, we have one kind of way of working. We like to work. We put our heads to the grindstone, and then there's a generation that grew up with a cell phone in their hand, and I had to go to a card catalog. Anybody remember a card catalog? I had to go to a card, and I remember the guy knocking on my door to sell me encyclopedias. Yeah, that's how I learned. And the encyclopedia better be right, because if that's wrong information, I'm teaching everyone else wrong information. And I remember the best salesperson in the room was the guy who was the most confident. They didn't have to be right because there was no transactional, let me Google that real quick to see if you're right. But the generation now has the ability to know if they can do their research correctly, because you can certainly go down 3 clicks on YouTube and you'll go down a rabbit hole that you've never been down and you start believing things that make no sense. Thanks, YouTube, for that. But there's a generation of folks right now that have the information at the palm of their hands all the time, and they can figure it out within seconds. And that generation learns differently. So Vince and I were talking about this. He says, the older generation believe that the younger generation don't want to listen. I'm trying to teach them this tribal knowledge the best I can. The younger generation says, I'm trying to learn the tribal knowledge, but the guy's just, he's got his cup of coffee, he's sitting in the corner, he's like, screw you, we have this pivotal moment where we're trying to absorb as much information as we can.
At EBITDA Growth Systems, we guarantee to double your value in 3 years. Well, instead of telling you about a guarantee, how about if I tell you a story? We had a shop owner come to us at an event saying, I'm not sure if you can help us. He said, we have our credit lines maxed out in our business. I have a second mortgage on my home, it's maxed out. I'm not sure what to do. I have a payroll coming up next week and I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Can you help us? We said we weren't sure, so we came in and we came alongside of him. In 18 months, he went from not having any money to having over $800,000 in the bank and having a 6 times exit what his value was at that day. And now he's living a life that he always dreamed of with his family. And it's fantastic, and that's what's really rewarding for us, and that's what EBITDA Growth Systems is all about. If you want to know more about EBITDA Growth Systems, go to www.ebitagrowthsystems.com, EBITDA growthsystems.com, and go to our contact page where I will reach out to you personally.
And if we don't work together to do this as a team, as a family, as associations, hopefully association and association can work together as well. Trade shows work together. If we don't do this, if we don't do what I asked you to raise your hand about with social media, it's going to be difficult to reach a generation that grew up with this in their hand. And I'm not on TikTok. I'm a terrible dancer. In fact, we danced on main stage just recently at IMTS. Everyone saw how bad we were, or at least I was at dancing. So I don't have TikTok. Instagram, I see its value, especially for if you are in the world of, say, consumer products. So things that are $200, $300 and below. If you're in that world, I would say, great. Consumables, right? Maybe your cutting tools, your work holding. Instagram can work really good. And both of those sites can work really well for getting a younger person to go show their boss and say, hey, look what I found. And then the boss will do the research on some of the other sites. YouTube, LinkedIn, your website. I know it's not fun. I know we don't have time. I know it can be annoying, but the folks who have embraced it, and we're actually going to talk about this more at Dave and Mike's session we're going to have in a couple of weeks, because they guarantee that they will help you. Oh, I get louder by that. I'm going to stay away. They guarantee that they will double your profits within 3 years. If I owned a machine shop and I heard that, I would say, prove it to me. I want to be there right now. But we're going to go talk about this, marketing. And so, like it, don't like it, despise it. Nobody raised their hand except for Megan. I would hopefully empower you to give it a try if you have time. If you can, you will find value in it. You won't find value in it on day one, but you will find value in it. You will grow your shops. You will grow your clientele. You will grow your relationships. And then simultaneously, while empowering yourself, you will reach an audience that we're all fighting to reach. The big problem, I would say, when friends like Megan, who's probably the voice of she's been categorized as the voice for women, and I think that's very good credit for her. When we talk about Drew and he's reaching this diversity, when Roger and I talk about how we can reach all the kids that are out there, we have to reach them through means that we haven't tried or done before that resonate with them. And I've heard the discussion a ton of how do we get to all the kids and their parents? Their parents are important. Well, in my industry of what I do, we create a ton of videos. We probably make over 1,000 videos in a year combined because we're a global channel. We have local presenters and camera folks everywhere in the world except for Asia, which I'm going to have before the end of next year. But everywhere in the world. We have boots on the ground. And most people, whether it's our friends at Modern Machine Shop with the magazines or Practical Machinists with Ian Sandusky, and I give these folks shout outs, or Titans of CNC, I give these guys shout outs, although competition, I don't care about that. We're all in this together. Give them all a shout out, give them all a look. They're doing the right things, they're educating. But we have to step into this world of connecting with everyone on their own level. Let's spend time, whether we like it or not, doing that. Now, I'm not going to dwell anymore on social media because you don't like it. And to be honest, neither do I, but it is important. So if you can get there, do it. All right. No more yawning. I saw that yawn. I'm just kidding. Didn't mean to call you out. I yawned too. It's the fog in my brain. I blame you guys for the extra tequila last night. All right. Welcome to the movement. Industry 1.0, 1700s. Industry 2.0, 1800s, Industry 3.0, 1969, 4.0, 2011, we're now saying 5.0. I don't like Industry 4.0, 5.0, 3.0, I don't like calling it that, but that's what it's been called, right? When I ask a question, I'd like you to be honest. If you don't want to raise your hand, don't. If you don't want to let the world know where you currently sit, please don't. But in my personal experience of traveling around, going into probably thousands of machine shops at this point and seeing everything from the latest and greatest technology of a shop that runs itself, that looks exactly like what they're selling at a trade show, to someone who is way behind but still figuring out how to make money, which is kind of cool. How many people sit right now in their machine shop in 3.0 of computer, electronics, and automation without combining cyber, physical systems, lot, networks, Internet of Things? How many people currently believe that their shop kind of sits in the 3.0? We have machines, we run them, they do their job. I would say, based on what I'm seeing as I travel around, I would say 50% of the shops, if not more, still sit there. They're still running, and I love a 3-axis machine. I would love a manual machine, so what I'm about to say is not to condemn that, but I would say that you can do more work on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-axis machines with automation and these built-in systems to get one and dones out the door, to reduce your overall cost of parts, cost of time. The labor shortage is complemented by being able to get things done on one machine without having to have several laborers move parts from machine to machine and have 10, 20, 30, 40 on 4 different machines instead of on one machine. These are conversations, these are things I see regularly. Let's go back for a second. Japan, China, Korea, Singapore, some of these places that are adopting this information. Go back to COVID. COVID made us realize that we have to do more reshoring. Our friend Harry Moser, he was preaching reshoring for a long time. Nobody was listening. Like, yeah, we should do that. We should probably do that. And then COVID hit, and we're like, shit, I don't have anything I need. What do I do? Everything's stuck on a boat. Oh my gosh. And then Harry Moser's voice took off. He's giving keynotes around the country right now. It's just, the great thing about manufacturing is we make things to make our lives easier. I gave this example when we were in Texas as well. When I was a kid, I turned the TV like this. I had to get up. I was like, this TV show sucks. All right, turn all 6 of my channels. And then we made remote controls. I was like, cool, I can just be lazy, drink my beer. But what we do is we make all of life easier, and we make things to allow that to happen. Shouldn't we do that in our machine shops as well? Shouldn't we make our lives easier? Shouldn't we understand that if I put a piece of raw material into this machine and it is completely done and goes into a box, when it comes off of that machine, everything I'm saving, all the time I'm saving, all the people resources I'm saving, and if you want to get real fun, what about those autonomous robots that are now doing tool changing for us? I was just over in Japan for Gym Tough. I'm about to go again in a week. And Brent, this one's for you because literally saw one of the best sales I've ever seen in my life on a DMG Mori booth. There was 4 machines, 5 or 6 robots, 0 humans, running everything from tool and part loading and unloading, changing out tools, to taking parts out of a machine, to measurements, to put it into a box. 0 humans. Now, when you say things like that, traditional folks start to think, I'm going to lose my job. Man, no, you're not. We are going to reorganize your skills and do the things that you love to get creative and put you in a place of success instead of the mundane and the monotonous and the reason why you think manufacturing might not be fun when it's freaking awesome. Am I allowed to cuss? I think I already did once or twice. Can I say the F word? Yeah? Yeah, 5 times? Okay. So I'm going to stick with freaking because I don't want to be too aggressive today, but it's freaking awesome, right? And we forget that sometimes because when I was a machinist and we didn't have any of these things and I was running a job, I had 1,000 part jewelry, 1,000 rings to make, and the only game I got to play was, can I beat my record from yesterday? I did 1,001. Can I get 1,002 today? But we at that time weren't investing in technology. The furthest we got, I got to program a cobot at that time, and it stirred our coffee. That was the best we did. But that's part of what makes manufacturing amazing. If we're going to attract this next gen and get them out of their cubicles or their computer programming or their, let's say, comfortable jobs, even sexier jobs, right? At least that's how it's taught, is sexier jobs. In fact, on the flight on the way here, I think there were 7 bachelorette parties and 1 group of guys that were on spring break. They're like, we're going to go catch up with the bachelorette parties. But every single one of the guys was on a baseball team. I said, what's your major? Computer science, computer science, computer science. Oh, really? What do you do? Oh, buddy, I got excited. Let me tell you what I do. And I told him all about manufacturing, traveling the world. I said, look at that thing you got. You see those Bose headphones you got on? I made that. And he's like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. That's right. But that's our fault too. That's our fault too. We need to work on that. We're a humble group. We need to talk about it more. We need to be proud more. We need to do things we've never done. And I say that in a joking manner because I don't want to do it either. I don't want to walk around just like, hey man, I'm so cool. Look at me. Yeah, like a swag walk and all that. But at the same time, we kind of need to, because discussionably, I say discussionably regularly. If you ever hear me speak in any of my interviews or podcasts, when I bring up something to someone, I say discussionably, because I don't like to argue. I like to learn. So discussionably, manufacturing is the most important to any country's economy on the planet. And if we're not proud about that, who else will be? And if we're not talking about it, who else is going to talk about it? So whether we like it or not, we got to do some things we're not used to doing. It's just the way. This is not what I wanted to do today was sit with you guys and hear somebody else talk and learn. But my responsibility from traveling the world to going to about 80 countries at this point, to spending time with so many of you shops, learning about your technology at Heimer and Spinner and Datanomics and your pro shops and your paperless and working on these projects for shop rescue and helping shops flip around what they've been doing and thrive instead of tread water for years. I mean, millions of dollars in debt that have now, they can breathe again, Sorry, I won't sing to you, but I do it. I apologize. Oh, did you know I was a 10-year really bad hip-hop artist? That's how I That's how stage is so comfortable, by the way. Yeah, one of my best friends, it's a long story, but yeah, I did music for a while. Anyway, I won't sing to you today, but those things are important to understand. It is our responsibility. We can't point fingers and only complain. In fact, when I talked to Vince Selway yesterday, and he talked about these complaints, a lot of what I've discussed with you today about this tribal knowledge that's not being passed down, or the unwillingness to learn, or this gap that we have between receiving information and getting that information down on paper so that everyone understands. It all goes into kind of doing things that we're not used to doing and being uncomfortable. Again, something I talked about in Texas, which I think is very informational for most people to understand, is the comfort zone. Let's pretend this is your comfort zone. It's a beautiful place, amazing. I mean, it is exactly as it sounds like, comfortable. But nothing grows there. What happens when you leave the comfort zone? Well, now you're out here. Oh, that's uncomfortable, I get it. But you come back, then you do it again, and you come back, and you do it again. What happens to that comfort zone? It is now this big instead of this big. And that comfort zone continues to expand until it all becomes comfortable, whether we like it or not. Now, a lot of people might ask me, well, Tony, I want to do all of that, but I can't afford it. My shop either isn't profiting enough, or it's too expensive to adapt automation, or how am I going to be able to finance millions of dollars worth of stuff to make my shop the most elite shop around the block? Work with your teams. It's not easy, but you have to do it. Make the investments count. Make your partnerships count. Make your friendships count. Figure out how to do things that aren't being done. I'll give you an example. I was recently out in Southern California, and I'm allowed to say that I have signed a ton of NDAs, by the way. There's a lot of things I can't talk about. But this I can. They didn't make me sign, and we're getting ready to release a video on it. But I was in Southern California at a place called Action Industries. And Action Industries, over the last 5 years, have purchased 12 new EDM machines from Sodic, wire EDM machines, a couple sinkers as well. And the interview was, why did you buy so many, and what are you doing with them? How many people think of EDM as a set it, forget it, hard material, tight tolerance, that kind of thing, right? Maybe it finishes as well. Yeah, I mean, this is what we think about with EDM. It's typically a 10-thou brass wire that cuts through hard materials. You set it down, you nest a few parts, and you move about your day. You come back 2-3 days later, maybe over the weekend, your parts are finished for the most part. Maybe you got to drill some holes or tap, and there's some adaptations to this conversation, of course. But what were they doing? They were taking Inconel, which is, for people who are machining Inconel, I have as well. It's not the most fun. Some people are utilizing ceramic tooling to do it. Some people have other methods. But what they realized was the cost of tooling, the cost of work holding, the cost of everything involved in order to machine Inconel, and they had some of the best machines. I could name drop all day on the most rigid, rugged, powerful machines in this shop that can plow through Inconel as well as plow through Inconel can actually be. And they were utilizing these EDM machines to do 100% of their roughing. Roughing. EDM for roughing. But you could finish, set it, forget it, do all the things, right? Roughing. So they would rough everything, and the tooling costs were reduced by 90%. 90% for tooling costs. And then they popped that part onto those rough and rugged and reliable machines and just skim off the areas of a few thou that needed to be done, not destroying their tools, partnering with the right tooling companies, which allowed them to produce more at a more cost-effective rate. And at that cost-effective rate, everyone's giving them their jobs. Again, I could name drop, but just think of your favorite aerospace companies, your favorite defense companies. That's who they're working for. That is, to me, out-of-the-box thinking. That is a way to say, I can leave something in a machine for hours and hours and hours and let wire do the cutting of some of the hardest, most difficult materials, which will allow me to make a lower bid, to win those bids, make more profits, buy more machines, and do more within my shop, hire more people. In 2015, they had 7 employees. In 2024, they have 85. It's because of creative thinking. This I've always done it this way mentality that a lot of us have, even if we say we don't have it. I'll look in my mirror and I'm like, why am I doing the same shit today I did yesterday? You know, that's why when we did the introduction just a minute ago, overachiever, it's because I get bored. And I'm not great at most things. If you were to read one of my books, you'd be like, this book sucks. But I wrote one and I published it. Well, the other book went #1 in 7 countries, and it's like Chicken Soup for Your Soul, and I wrote it while I was in Bali and backpacking through India and hanging out with Buddhists and on the Himalayas and all that stuff. And that one's kind of cool. But I wrote one for practice because I just wanted to write. Doesn't mean it was good. What I'm saying is stay creative, stay fun, enjoy life, make manufacturing fun, adapt change, adopt change, appreciate change. Change is a difficult thing to accept, but if we can, everything will, and to redundant in my wording, change within your shop, change within your life. It becomes fun, and people will feed off of that. That 21-year-old kid that's on the baseball team, he's questioning his career right now because he thinks my job is way damn cooler. He's like, wow, you get to see the whole world talk manufacturing? Yes, I do. It's like, that must be the best job ever. Well, it's exhausting, but it is. I get to make friends like you guys. I get to do things like this, and, you know, occasionally there's sleep. It wasn't last night, but there's sleep so from time to time on planes. My camera guy, where is he? Cesar, you slept on the plane all day yesterday. You didn't sleep at all the night before. That's what we do. We came from FabTech to be here. We fly to LA and tomorrow, well, the day after tomorrow. Then from there we fly to Minnesota to Cleveland to Florida to Detroit to Denver to see you guys. Denver to Japan to Bali to India to Guatemala to Mexico. Then it's Thanksgiving. That's my schedule. That is my schedule. And it's because this industry is dope. It's amazing. I keep reiterating that because I want you to feel it as well. I want to keep saying it out loud. I'm a big fan of manifestation through word, through power. If we repeat something, say something, we can create something. If we are day in and day out repeating our struggles, repeating our strifes, repeating negativity, we will create negativity and more strife. I'm a big fan and a believer of creating and saying what we want even if we don't have it. If you've ever been looked down upon for being a machinist, if you ever looked down upon for being in a shop, for being dirty, for being unkept, for being a misfit like me, we're all misfits. Oh, buddy, I dropped out of high school. I went back, of course, but I dropped out of high school. I got kicked out of 3 colleges. I have no right to be where I am today whatsoever. I got kicked out of 3 colleges within about a 4-month period, actually. That's how great I am at school. I suffocated and died from viral pneumonia and had to physically, after they woke me up, physically beat the fluid out of my lungs in order to survive. My house burned down when I was 20 years old, and I lived on the streets for a few months before my friends took me in. My brother, who's schizophrenic, burnt our house down. My best friend was killed at 20 years old. My nephew died at 4 years old. My brother took 3 bottles of pills and tried to kill himself, put himself down forever. Life will always bring you something, and I know I'm way off tangent from manufacturing movement, but what I want to say is believe in yourself, believe in your strength, believe in your courage, believe in manufacturing, and if you do, and when you do, others around you will as well. And I think the most important thing about a manufacturing movement is connecting with people outside of this room. I can talk to you all day long about, hey, let me make your shop better. I can consult you. I can fix it, whatever. And I can, and we can. And together, that's what this whole thing is for, is to come together to make that better. But we also need to reach people that have never heard of this, that have never heard of manufacturing. And in order to do that, it comes from self-belief. It comes from being proud. It comes from doing social media. Boo, I know. It comes from doing these things we're not used to doing, because if we're going to make change, true change, because the government's not funding education, most programs don't fund education in the way that we'd like them to send our advocates around the country to talk to these parents, to talk to these kids, to bring these machine shops back. Because there's no money in developing it, we must do it on our own. And we can only do it as a community and as a family. So I'm going to step off of my preaching horse here and get back into the manufacturing movement. Advanced technology, shifting consumer demands, global supply chain disruptions. I've kind of already discussed all that, so let's skip it. Embracing technological innovation. I'm going to let this run just for a second because it's kind of a cool graphic, but just for fun, so I can have this information for the next keynote I give and understand this room a bit better. How many believe that they have, in their machine shops, embraced the latest and greatest innovation in their shops? That's good. How many would like to, but have some sort of know about it? Let's say, how many people know about the latest and greatest? Let's go with that. You've seen it, watched a video maybe? Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're doing okay, but we need to do better with getting the word out about the technology. And I wish this could be a Q&A where I ask you a question and you respond to me, but I don't think we can other than raise of hands, because I would ask you what resource do you utilize or would like to utilize to absorb that information? If you feel like, I don't know what the latest and greatest is, how do you find it? Well, there's 3 main resources as a general rule. You have your readers, your watchers, and your listeners. 70% of the people right now are watchers. That's just the way it works. About 20% are listeners, and about 10% are readers, as a general rule. And I like all of it. In fact, MTDCNC, as a marketing company, we have all of it. We just know the statistics of where it's being received and the long-term effects of what a video does, or the fact that if you watch something, you can absorb more information than you can when you only hear or only read. You're utilizing multiple brain resources through video. But we're not getting it out there, so we need to figure out how to get it out there. Okay, that's good for me to know. That's good for me to know for future conferences as well. Impact of 4.0 and efficiency on productivity. I asked this question in the last one as well, Salim, but I think it's an important question to ask in every room I'm in because I need to know. When it comes to 4.0, when it comes to reshoring, if we reshored everything that we complain about right now, reshore, 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 do we believe here in the U.S. that we have the ability to reshore all of it? Do we think, and be honest, just raise of hand, if we were to incorporate all reshoring right now, are there enough machine shops and people and education to take on the reshore? No, there's not. That is correct. Nobody raised their hand, and nobody did in the last one either, did they, Salim? Yeah, that is the truth. We want to reshore. We want to bring it back. We talk about it all the time, bring it back. But if we brought it all back, we'd be in big trouble. We would. However, I'm about to fly down to Mexico City because you know what's next best to reshoring is nearshoring. You know what's great about Mexico and Canada? They have the same rules and regulations we do. There's no cheat codes. There's no reverse engineering and theft. There are no super high tariffs. Nearshoring is helpful. If we're going to reshore, let's nearshore. So if you are interested in visiting Mexico with me in March of next year for TECMA, I invite you. I'll show you all my friends. If you're looking to bring stuff back, and yet we can't do it all here, I invite you to do that. However, the impact of 4.0 on efficiency and production. Reshoring, back to that. I love yoga, by the way. I should stretch more. If we're going to compete on a global scale, if we're going to reshore and nearshore, if all the complaining we do is going to result in some action, we must embrace 4.0 and 5.0 because...
Hey everybody, Mike Franz here with Shop Floor Coffee. For 20 years, we've been seeing the same issues going on with workforce development and the shortage in workers across the industry. We wanted a way to give back. Shop Floor Coffee is our way to do that. Proceeds from every bag or every type of coffee you buy from us go back to the community. We work with amazing programs and initiatives across the country where we're giving back. We want to help support the community. Come together with us. Join us in this effort to help support the community. Please, thank you very much.
Believe it or not, and you probably do because you've seen it, but believe it or not, China's quality is not the we used to get about 10 years ago. It is good. They've done a wonderful job of reverse engineering all the world's products and making good stuff. In fact, they're outsourcing to Mexico now. They're outsourcing to India. Did you know the average wage in Mexico is $4 less per hour than it is in China? $4 less per hour because the wages are going up in China. So if we're going to reshore, it is no longer quality first or quality only. We got to keep quality. Don't get me wrong. Quality is important. discussionably the most important. But it can't be the only pitch we have. It has to be lead times. It has to be cost effective. And if all of you remember that circle that there used to be, it says you can pick 2 of 3. You can pick time, you can pick quality, and you can pick price. Guess what? That thing has changed. You got to have all 3. How do you have all 3? By embracing 4.0. By adopting your machine monitoring and your ERPs and these technologies that allow your machines to run at optimal potentials while you're not around. The ability to run work cells, whether it's cobots, robots, pallet change, bar feed, or the automation of your choice, but run 5, 6, 10 machines with one operator. And that one operator is creative enough to run the entire thing. And again, I'm going to go back to the traditional thinking of that's taking my job. No, it's not. We got a 3 million person gap right now, and I think that's going to go up in by 2030. Nobody's job is being lost. It's being reshifted over to something more creative and productive. If we're going to say these things to ourselves amongst our peers over and over again, complaining, I need more workers. We need to reshore. We need to take manufacturing back again. We need to make manufacturing fun. This is how we do it. We embrace the change. This manufacturing movement that you want to talk about so much, Roger, that you and I have talked about on podcasts over and over again. We must, like it or not, we must. And if you or we or I stand in the position and say, it's always worked for me this way, you are falling behind and we are falling behind. And again, I never teach from fear. When we say manufacturing movement, I could have gone, or the lack thereof, and talked about the lack thereof the entire time. But I want to talk about what we can do, what we should do, how we embrace this whole thing, how we embody a movement that inspires people outside of this room. This room is important. You guys are incredible. I love every single one of you. At the same time, there's about 1 billion people out there who have no idea what this room is about. Probably more than that, really. And I can't say just in America because there's not 1 billion people here, but let's say 200 million. So it's up to us. This is up to us. The role of AI and machine learning and predictive maintenance in smart factories. Oh gosh. Did you know I was just asked to do an AI presentation at a Playboy conference? Yeah, that's way off topic, but literally came in yesterday. In Brickell, in Florida, in Miami, Florida. I have been invited to give a keynote on AI and smart factories for Playboy. I don't know why. We're going to find out soon. AI, machine learning. I think most people in this room feel like they're pretty clever at something. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, if you judge a fish by how it can climb a tree, you'll think it's an idiot. We're not idiots. Nobody in this room is an idiot, and we're all good at something. But when we get into the world of something like AI, I think we all feel a little dumb. It's moving so quickly, and how do we adapt it to our shops without having a true resource and partner in order to trustworthy relationships? AI, I don't know, is Will Smith going to pop up with iRobot? Maybe. I don't think so. I think AI is going to be a good thing. I use ChatGPT all the time. Anybody else in here use Chat? Yeah. It's a brilliant resource. It creates graphics for me. It helps me do things I can't do in less amount of time. Used correctly. But imagine that tribal knowledge we talked about. The either inability or unwillingness to take information from a generation that's been doing this for 40 or 50 years and pass it down to a generation who's been doing this for 40 to 50 minutes. AI might help with that. It's not going to be tribal knowledge, but it's going to take machine information that you never knew existed and optimize that machine, whether it be in fabrication world, or welding world, or be in machine tool world. It's going to take information you never knew existed and maximize every moment. And every time you maximize those moments, your costs go down. And when your costs go down, you can either make more, bid more, and win more. AI can be a scary thing. Yeah, if you watch enough movies, I'm not into horror movies, but if you watch enough movies, it'll tell you it's a scary thing. Predictive maintenance. Anyone ever crashed a machine? I have. Yeah, that's a pants-changing day. I have smashed through plexiglass. I had one of my chucks off center, and that whole machine started dancing, ripped out the bolts in the ground, and smashed it against the plexiglass. I thought we were all gonna die. It went rolling across the factory. I'm gonna use that F-bomb, I almost did. Whew, what a day. Would you say that one of the most stressful moments in a machine shop is when a machine is down? When it's not making you money? Especially if it's a hot job or something like that, right? Predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance is built into a lot of the machine tools that are out there right now and the accessories that go along with them to help you understand when your bearing is starting to wear down, when your software needs updating, when the inside components of what normally might break down that your maintenance team will have to guess and just kind of say, okay, on this week we're going to work on this row of machines. And we're going to go through it and we're going to clean the coolant and the chips and grease everything up and oil everything up. You know, I've taken apart a lot of machines and a lot of weight covers and had to fix them myself. And I never really knew what the problem was, except I just cleaned it all. How much time do we lose? How much money do we lose when our machines are down that predictive maintenance can reduce for us? That we no longer have to schedule an entire row of machines to be down, but we can understand them, have them fixed and sorted before we even get involved with downtime. I know some of this is very obvious. Some of this is something that you've probably heard in meetings before. My job today, I think, is to help build the confidence and structure the idea of giving it a chance. That's it. Just give it a chance. Talk to your folks out there. Additive manufacturing. How many people play in additive manufacturing? That's what I expected. Additive manufacturing, for some reason, came out like a cannon. We're here. We're going to change the game. We're going to be amazing. And there are some amazing aspects to it. But additive manufacturing as a whole, in everybody's machine shop, not everybody, a majority of machine shops out there can utilize additive manufacturing for small things like soft jaws or components on your CMM machines where you used to machine them on your CNC. You can now just 3D print them and there's no machine downtime. Soft jaws, you can print those out. They're just as strong, some of the plastics. You can do things in metals or plastics that have splines that do like this that are so much impossible to machine. I was just in a place called Tyrex out in Austin, Texas, and they do shoe molds, for example. And you can nest in some of these 3D printing machines and print off different jobs, mix and match, same jobs by the hundreds, by the thousands. The height of the 3D printing, the additive machines, you can actually nest different rows if you have a higher height instead of just one row. And they are making a boatload of money. If you're not watching MTDCNC, that video will come out soon. Cesar, when are you going to finish editing that video? Couple days? All right, stay tuned. That one's coming out soon. But additive manufacturing has a place. Now, I'm not saying change your machine shop around to do everything that you're doing through traditional manufacturing, for metal removal on an additive machine. To me, that's nonsense. I would be selling additive, and I'm not. But I would say, get one. I would say there are places that you can play and have fun and make things that you hadn't thought of before. There's going to be some creative kids. That's another thing. Let me just step into that world super quick. We're trying to find more people to enjoy what we do, right? What do you think attracts kids into your machine shop? Automation, robotics, additive manufacturing, these buzzwords, clean environments, clean floors, filtration systems. Believe it or not, I like to breathe. When I go out into a shop and I walk out smelling and my wife doesn't want to spend time with me because I smell like coolant, that's not great. They like these things. You want to attract in this way as well. Additive manufacturing, give it a shot. It's not overly expensive. In fact, most additive manufacturing facilities, to my knowledge right now, are leasing, which saves you money. You can lease an additive machine, try it out for yourself, give it a month, 6 months, 9 months, see if it works for you. I bet it will. I bet you're going to have some young man or woman in your machine shop going, let me do that. Let me do that. And something else Tyrex does, just for fun, since we're mentioning them, is they actually bring interns from their high school. They did 44 in the last one. Bring them in and help them allow them to do competitions on 3D printing. Print something that you think has never been made before. And they came up with some of the coolest stuff, and they applied it to their job, and it was free. It was free to have this creativity. They printed food, oddly enough. They had a food printer. They printed a lot of cool stuff. Anyway, give it a try. Shifting consumer expectations. I don't even know if I want to talk about this. Consumers have too many expectations as it is. And I say too many because we all deserve to have the expectations, but living in a consumerism world right now, Amazon has destroyed us. The fact that you can buy something, return something, buy something, return something, whatever you want to do, well, everyone expects it from everyone now. Screw that. That's not fair. But at the same time, the expectations are there. It goes back, and I saw you shake your head about the 3 things that you have to have. We have to have them now. It's no longer price or delivery. It is all of it. You got to do all of it. That's a consumer expectation. Sustainability, market demands, customization, being flexible is important. I am down to 1 minute and 40 seconds, and I've gone through almost none of my slides. So much like my last presentation, I'm going to click a few of these. Sustainability. I know in the U.S., we look at sustainability as, does it make me money? And if it doesn't, I don't care, for the most part. There's some people that care about sustainability and eco-friendly and that kind of thing, but for the when I make a video or pitch a situation and I'm in Europe, sustainability, eco-friendly is here. And it's only about the environment. But when I pitch it in the U.S., it's about profitability. If I'm going to be eco-friendly, sustainable, what money does that make me? So I can't go through all the things because I'm down to just a minute. But I would say Google, research, use ChatGPT, and look up how you can be profitable through being eco-friendly and sustainable, because you can and you will. And that could be things like reducing material waste, simple things like that, reducing coolant waste. If your coolant is the same coolant you've had from day one and you're not paying attention, I know Tiffany's around here somewhere, you're not paying attention to the residue that's sticking to your material right now, and you're going through barrels of coolant quicker than you think you should, and you're doing secondary operations because your finish isn't good, and you're doing secondary operations because there's a paste on your material that you need extra laborers to clean up. Talk to your folks about coolant and have them pick one for you that you will reduce your overall waste because it's not sticking anymore. Your tool life will be better. Your finishes will be better. Your second operations will go down. It's little things like that, and that's just one example of what you can do in that world. Driving innovation, lean, agile, efficient. Oh, EBITDA. I'm going to stay here for just a second just because I love EBITDA so much. All right. My time is up. I am at zeros. We have a lot to do today. Lean, agile, and efficient manufacturing. Let's do it together. Talk to as I look into the audience to see my friends that are here, talk to your big Kaisers, talk to your Heimers, talk to your Blazers, your Datanomics, your Heidenheims, these paperless parts. I've worked with all of these guys. They're all wonderful companies. This is why we're all here together, is so we can network. Pretending that we know it all, don't do that. Having questions, have a lot of them. Anyone who doesn't ask questions is missing out. I do believe and honor every single one of you who does have the courage to admit I don't know it all, and what I'm doing might not be the best thing to do, because we do have a lot of egos in our industry. We're very prideful, and proudful. Pride and pride, and we have a lot of that. I would honor you to say, I know what I know, but I'm missing a lot. Every single day, I look in the mirror and I look at every single one of you, and I know that I have so much to learn from you. And I, too, want to have the courage to admit I have a lot to learn from each and every one of you, and everyone in every experience of this life. Every human being on this planet is both a teacher and a student. And if we can see the world in such a way and adapt and absorb as much information as we can and apply that to our shops, we can make manufacturing in this country not just great, but fun and desirable. That's my speech. That's all I got.